Y'all can groove behind your wheel there as you're making your commute in, as we bring on Mike DeBonis. He covers D.C. politics for the Washington Post, and I'm sure you are grooving a little bit to the music as well, Mike DeBonis.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, good.
Totally groove time this morning.
Listen, as covering D.C. politics means a couple of things. You got to know what's going on, especially this year because we have the mayoral campaign. You also need to be up to date on Marion Barry's driving record. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's hit first to the mayor's race. Big news yesterday as David Catania finally officially turned in his ballot petitions, right?
Yep. There really wasn't any doubt that this was going to happen, but he did it a day ahead of time and claimed to have more than doubled the number of signatures necessary to qualify for the ballot. So as far as he's concerned, he is officially on the ballot for November, and he called on his Democratic opponent, Muriel Bowser, to say, hey, listen, I'm on the ballot, I'm here, I'm not going away, it's time to have a debate.
So do you think that Muriel will eventually debate Catania? She's been lying low. Everything I've read, from you and others, in the Post, she's avoiding kind of commenting on anything.
Trying to play out the clock, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, she will. I mean, she has committed to a debate on September 18th, which is, 6 weeks. That's roughly 6 weeks before Election Day. Catania has repeatedly, pressured her to step up and do it earlier. The ballot campaign has now ruled out doing one earlier, but they've sort of, taken the position that that's the first one, and if, unless there's something else presented to them that works, then, that's what we're going to do.
Mike,
they basically are taking the position that, listen, we're in the driver's seat here. We're the Democratic nominee in an overwhelmingly Democratic city. The city hasn't had anything but Democratic mayors in its 40 years of home rule. So, but
and how's that working out?
Right.
But Mike DeBonis, your paper, the Washington Post, actually had a poll recently that showed a remarkable number, like 30-point lead for Muriel Bowser. Catania's people yesterday said, "Oh, we've got it internally more or like high single digits." Did you get any more data from them about that poll?
No.
Because that seems pretty remarkable too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is probably somewhere in between those two things. I mean, David Keane mentioned this internal poll they did, but they didn't release any real documentation of that. He just, made a claim that, this race is, according to their internal numbers, now a single-digit race. Well, I also don't think you can say at this point that it's a 30-point race because, that poll was taken, just before the primary, late March. David Catania barely started his campaign. Muriel Bowser, was at sort of the height of her marketing and campaign push at that point. So I think we're somewhere in between those two sort of data points at this point.
So do you think Catania can be competitive? What's your gut telling you? He like you said, he hasn't started his campaign in earnest yet, really.
I've learned one thing from covering David Catania for, the better part of 10 years now, and that is he is never to be underestimated. And he's very aggressive. He's very smart. He's been doing D.C. politics for a long time. And I do think he can be competitive. I do think he is being competitive. It's going to be, nobody in the Bowser campaign is saying that they're sleeping on this guy. And I think that there are some people involved in that campaign who are, frankly, kind of, they're a little nervous about, how this is all going to play out.
Well, and Muriel, frankly, is doing a retread, really, I would say, or a repeat of Fenty's, door-to-door. But many people say that, she's got a retail campaign, but there's no there underneath. I mean, she's taking credit for real estate development projects that were already coming out of the ground. As you well know, you've done this for over a decade. Do you think Catania can expose her on, I have an agenda and you don't?
Well, he's trying very hard. I mean, I will say that there's never, every candidate from here to eternity has taken credit for things that they can't necessarily take credit for alone. So I don't think
Right.
Muriel Bowser is any, different from any other candidate, and I think, you'd probably say that about Catania and some things he's, involved in. But he does have, without a doubt, a list of, 17 years of
That's right.
projects, initiatives, and programs that he's been involved in and been an advocate for, and in some cases more than that, that he's, just hammering her on day in and day out and saying, hey, Muriel, you've been here 7 years.
Right.
That's not an eye blink. What have you accomplished in your time here? And her list is relative to Catania is very short.
Thin.
We'd be remiss in not also acknowledging that today Carol Schwartz is expected to turn in her requisite 3,000 signatures, and that will put her on the ballot as well. By the way, compared to Catania and Bowser, she has even a longer track record, considering she's been in D.C. politics for decades. She's going to be a factor, is she not, in terms of splitting that anti-Bowser vote?
That remains to be seen. I don't think we've seen any polling. We don't know who Carol's votes are. Are they people who would have been inclined to vote for one candidate or another, or are they people who, may not have voted anyway because they're not particularly happy with either candidate? I'm not prepared to say that one candidate or the other is going to suffer, greatly from this not being a essentially a two-person race. So, but without a doubt, Carol has support. I mean, this is somebody who, mounted a write-in campaign during her last council run and got, 40,000 votes, which is, not nothing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that kind of support is going to materialize, 8 years after she's held office in the city.
Well, I'm a registered Republican, as you know, in the district, and I will not be voting for Carol. But let's go to the politician who keeps on giving and giving and giving in the District of Columbia, and I refer to Marion Barry. And
yes, of course.
Please tell us, Mike, what do you think of it's so much that's happened over the last week, right? I mean, the unpaid tickets, and then the assistant who used government time to write his book. Why do you think he just has more? He has 18 lives, right?
Someone, I think it was a Rock Newman or someone said, he doesn't, he forget 9 lives. He's on his 9,000th life.
Yes. I mean,
somewhere in that.
Yeah.
I think we're somewhere in that territory. I mean, he was. This accident he was in on Saturday was not an unserious thing. This was a head-on collision on Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast. I think he's really lucky that he wasn't hurt. Nobody else was hurt.
In your reporting, Mike DeBonis, are you hearing any of the Democrats, kind of talking to you off the record, saying, maybe it's time for Marion Barry to hang it up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I definitely heard people say, why is he driving at his, he's had some serious health problems.
Mm-hmm.
He's, as he, it's no secret that he's a diabetic. There's, that was his big sort of excuse for this whole thing, is that I had a diabetic episode. Well, he's been a diabetic for years and years, and why is he?
Why are you driving?
Still putting himself in this position.
Plus, you get 3,000 back tickets as well. It's like Crystal said.
Well, but can't the council, the new ethics bill? What is the new ethics law? Right? Can't they do something? I mean,
it's unclear that not paying your tickets is an ethics violation that would be subject.
Well, the book deal, but having the woman write the book,
Mike DeBonis, we got to leave it there. It's always good to have you. There's so much to talk about there. Come back again, Mike DeBonis, Washington Post. Listen, if the council did something about Marion Barry and every time he's in the news, they wouldn't get anything else done.